From Tally to Cali,
It's time
to wake up.
Wake up!
Warchant.com is your ultimate Seminole sports source.
and this is Wake Up Warchant, presented by
Vitamin energy. The vitamins.
Energy.
Now here's Warchant.com's Aslan Hajavandi.
and Corey Clark.
Wake up! It's Wake Up Warchant presented by Vitamin Energy. Coming up on today's show, Corey and I in
so
a
loud.
large ballroom with
Yeah.
a lot of background noise at the
Yeah.
ACC kickoff. Summing up the first day, the important day, the Noles, talking to Warchant. Wake Up Warchant presented by Vitamin Energy. VitaminEnergy.com. Promo code Corey Clark is...
Warchant BOGO. Warchant BOGO.
We'll subdue this because I'm being so loud.
You are being
embarrassed
loud. I
now?
got to bring it down. It's
Oh.
the opposite of how it normally is.
We had to start the show off with a bang. We'll tone it down a little bit now. Check them out, VitaminEnergy.com, promo code Warchant BOGO. Buy one, get one free. They're Florida State alums, all ACC performers in their heyday in their chosen sport, an Olympic sport. Shout out Olympic teams. They got a lot of pub from
That's right.
Coach commish Jim Phillips earlier in the day. Go check it out, VitaminEnergy.com. Warchant.com, Ultimate Seminoles Sports Source. Oh my gosh, all the content already up on the site, and the
It's a
amount of
lot.
content.
It is a lot.
It's incredible. And guess what? There's going to be more coming your way today. Like 35 minutes with Darius Washington.
Mm-hmm.
How long was your interview with Josh Farmer, Matt Lasser? He's off camera right now. 23 minutes. Matt Lasser's hanging out with Josh Farmer, Patrick Payton. It's incredible. It's all there for you. Warchant.com. Tomorrow, practice starts. So even more content coming out. Incredible. Can't believe we made it. FSU 1 promo code. $1, 2 months of access. Enough of that. Corey's here, everybody. I'm here. Matt Lasser's here. Irish O'Fell's here. Jeff Cameron just left us.
Yeah. We
How
were
did it feel to
five
be-
deep. We were running 5 deep. But
How did it feel to be back here, Corey, holding court once again? Man, everybody was excited to see you.
It had been 5 years since I had been to a Warchant, or not a Warchant, it should be a Warchant Media Day, but an ACC Media Day. And it felt good, man. Different locale, different hotel. Not quite the same vibes, but still, it was cool. It's cool to be back.
Well, part of me thought was the fact that they're involved in costly litigation right now with 2 of their member institutions probably meant they had to kind of tighten their belts and downgrade a little bit, because we're at the Hilton, which is very nice, in Uptown. It's very nice, but it's not quite the Westin. But apparently the Westin's got, I guess, renovations going on, so that's why.
That's the reason. That's the reason. So we're next year it'll be at a Courtyard by Marriott.
All right, let's talk about Jim Phillips.
Okay.
I don't know I don't want to upset anybody, which, by the way, shout out to somebody commented about, like, oh, so good to hear you guys yesterday. It was sad that you guys were away for so long. And most, like, people leave a comment on YouTube and, like, maybe one person will thumb it up or thumb it down. There's, like, over 27 likes.
Oh, good, man.
So people missed
tough.
the show.
Yeah.
So
We do appreciate that.
Yeah.
And you're going to be tired of our voices very soon.
Yeah. So it's like, it's good to hear them yapping again.
Yep.
But I understand our audience. I understand what they want to hear. I don't know, man. Like Jim Phillips, and we've said it so many times, he inherited a bad situation.
Yes, he did.
He's tried his best to make it a little bit better. I know it's a different conversation, him not lobbying for your team to get into the playoff versus him being a steward of your conference and trying to get more revenue. But he sounded like a little bit assertive, a little bit maybe more than assertive, talking about like he's aware that there's lawsuits. He kind of underscored that, listen, these contracts were signed twice, and everybody was excited. We'll let the legal kind of thing situate itself out.
Eagerly. I think he said they were eagerly signed.
Yeah. Do you take anything away from his kind of his sass, more or less, about maybe how confident he is that things are going to work out in the ACC's favor and all this, or just he just kind of had to do something to make the other 12 schools, 16 now, there's 18
That's
schools,
right, that's right.
happy?
I wrote about it. It's on the site. I wrote a column about it. Like, he's in an impossible situation, as we've talked about. It reminds me of one of these coaches that knows they're going to another job, but they can't come out and say, like, are you crazy? Yeah, of course I'm going to Alabama. So they have to play that role. He has to. He works for the ACC. I think he probably sees Florida State's point of view. How could he not? He's a human. Anybody with an IQ above 88 knows that Florida
good?
State.
Like what's 88? Like, give me a baseline.
88 is you're in different classes.
Okay.
So I would say anything over like
you're not Gen Pop with everybody else.
I think 110 is probably good. Maybe 120.
All right.
I think over 130 is gifted.
Shout out Brady Clark.
That's right. Hey, unbelievably,
Corey Clark.
somehow. But so I think he understands that Florida State and Clemson's position in that. We're football powers. We want to make the same money that all the other football powers do. But his position that he will at least claim is that, but you've signed this thing. And
Twice.
That's the truth. I mean, you signed it twice. And so that's their claim. And he's not wrong about that. They did sign it twice. So that's kind of what my column was about, was like he's in an impossible situation. There's no good answer. There's no right answer for any of this, but also none of it matters. His words don't matter. It's not as if it's news that he's upset that the two biggest schools in his conference are suing the conference. Clearly he's upset by that. It also doesn't mean that nothing changed. Like Florida State and Clemson still won out. We still know why they won out, and they're going to get out. We don't know when that will be, and we don't know how costly it will be. But it feels like it's a little too far gone. You know what I mean? I don't think the genie's going back in the bottle. They're obviously not going to come back to the conference and everybody's going to be happy. There's lawsuits going on. So that was kind of the basis of the column. And as I ended it was, he was asked the question about, have you had talks with ESPN about giving the ACC good slots on Saturdays and not having it be an SEC triple header? And his quote, this is his last quote he had in the whole press conference, was, we've had these talks, yes, and I'm this trying to be a direct quote here, Aslan, but I don't know, I'm paraphrasing a little bit.
Don't McMurphy it.
But I don't want to do that. I think it's close to a direct quote. He's like, but I believe that we're going to have a great season, and if you have a great season, you get rewarded. Yeah, unless you go 13-0 and win the conference. You didn't get rewarded then, which goes to the very crux of why Florida State is trying to get out of this conference. So I thought the irony in that last sentence was pretty remarkable, considering he had just argued about why, not argued, but been kind of defiant about, it is aggressive in tone as he'd been through the whole time. And then he illustrated in my thought, one sentence, why Florida State and Clemson want to get out. Is because, yeah, man, you say they get rewarded, they don't. They're playing a different sport than those two other conferences.
Jeff and Ira talked about it. What did you take away from the question that he was asked, Jim Phillips was asked about whether or not whether ESPN has kind of firmed up their commitment and their resolve to stick this thing out through the grant of rights as opposed to...
Because there's the look-in, right? There's the look-in. Is it February of this year or February of a couple years?
I thought it was 27,
It might
maybe.
be 27,
yeah.
But there is a look-in that means there is a chance that is not written in stone that ESPN could just say, no, we're good, and not have a partnership with the ACC. I don't know how likely that is. It's probably more likely if Florida State and Clemson aren't in the conference that they might say, you know what, CBS Sport, the CBS network, sports network would be perfect for you guys, whatever they would say without Florida State and Clemson. So, that's a fair question, man, and he can't answer it. He just keeps saying, and again, possible situation, but he keeps saying we have a great relationship with ESPN. They want more revenue too. It's a 50-50 partnership, so the more money the conference makes, the more money they make. I'm not worried about that. We have a great relationship. But again, he also, said the same thing about the alliance. College sports and money are a whole different ballgame, man. You don't know how it's going to work out, and there is no guarantee. Even if Florida State and Clemson wanted to come back, there's no guarantee that in 2027 ESPN says no thanks, and then your TV revenue drops another 20 million or 30 million, and then you really can't compete.
So I want to ask you this, again, he's in a tough position. I get it. He's like, listen, you guys signed this contract twice. You're eager, yada, yada. But then with Florida State, it's an existential question of, like, we cannot function at the way our fan base, our alums are used to if we keep this sort of situation.
In 5 years, it'll be almost untenable, yes.
So we have to get out of this. So it's like, all right, like, I think when push comes to shove, it's going to be understood Florida State did sign a contract, but it's just not a tenable contract. They need to get out of it. I could sign an employment contract 10 years ago that said, I'm going to get $10 an hour. I'm like, oh, that's great. But if you're going to keep paying me $10 an hour, 10 years later, I'm going to be bankrupt and won't have anywhere to go. So it's going to ultimately work out to where there's going to be some sort of settlement here. Is the settlement more about like a punitive measure to try to get as much out of Florida State and Clemson to help keep the ACC afloat once they do leave? Or is it going to be trying to scare anybody else away from trying to jump ship? The dollar figure, the total, it's ultimately going to work out.
I don't know that there'd be anybody else. I mean, I guess North Carolina and Virginia, you hear that rumor that the SEC would be interested in them. Like, there's nobody else that's attractive enough, in my opinion, that would be willing to take that kind of financial hit as an institution, because where would they go? They would go to the Big 12? Well, the Big 12 is a similar payout, so there's nothing really to gain there, except, I guess, North Carolina, Virginia, if they're really somehow SEC, appealing to the SEC, it would make sense for them to want to get out. I think it's more about just getting as much money as they can for their member institution, so he can tell them, look what I got for you guys. So I made the best out of a bad situation. We got X amount of millions of dollars to split up among you 16. Enjoy that, SMU. By the way, I do want to say this, that I told you this. But as I just opened up my this happened Monday, everyone. Monday, I'm going to say the Commissioners Forum was over at 2:10, 2 o'clock. At 2:10, I go to that. I'm pointing. You guys, it's an audio medium, so you don't know where I'm pointing. I'm telling Aslan.
Easterly.
I'm pointing easterly to a private bench around the corner from where the workroom is, because it gets loud in here. I want to be able to write, and I'm writing a column, the column I just mentioned, about what Jim Phillips said. And literally, I'm writing down the headline, Phillips : a lot of sound and fury signifying nothing, something like that is my headline. And he walks up right to me as I'm sitting down. He goes, "Hey, how are you?" And I go, "Hey, man, how are you?" And I don't think he knew my name, but I feel like it absolutely was clear that he knew that I was a Florida State media member.
A Warchant.
And a really important one, clearly, one of the more important ones. He didn't know my name, but that's fine. I don't think he knew my name, but he sat there. He's like, "Hey, how is everything? When'd you get up? When'd you get up here?" I was like, "Oh, last night." And I'm like, "Hey, I thought that was entertaining in there." I think that's the word I use, entertaining. And I'm like, "But there's not really much you can say, right?" It's a tough. He goes, "Exactly. It's a tough situation to be in, whatever." And then a lot of it was off the record, so I'm not going to repeat it here.
Nice.
Certainly not in direct quotes.
Right.
But afterwards, so I'm in there, I'm writing, I'm done, and I've written this column. And it's not mean to him necessarily, but it's basically saying there's nothing he can say, and the fact that he did not bring up the snub once, I thought was telling. Like, not like, "Hey, we got cheated, we got screwed." I think that's part of going through a divorce. But he came out like 30 or 40 minutes later. He'd been there with his family. And he's like, "You hungry? You need anything?" I'm like, No, I'm good." And then he's like, No. And he went back inside and brought me a sandwich with fries and then 2 drinks and said, "I hope you have a great time." And I'm like, don't be nice, man. But he was very nice, and it didn't change how I
That's why I want
to stay in the ACC now. That's why I want to stay in the ACC. I love this conference. I don't know what anybody has against it, but I just thought that was the fact that he couldn't see what I was writing, but my headline had just been written, and he's literally looming over my computer saying hello as I'm sitting down. So I thought that was a surreal moment here. You get those sometimes.
What was up with him defending John Swofford's honor?
I don't know who. I guess he doesn't. So he brought up that it's business, but he's like when it gets personal or below the belt, something he used like that. And he was talking about Swofford. He's like, John Swofford is an honorable man, and I don't know. I think it's people blame Swofford for the horrendous deal.
Right.
But that's part of being a commissioner, man. There are going to be arrows thrown at you, and in hindsight,
was he mentioned the lawsuit? I think that's part of it too. Yes. I think he's like specifically mentioned in the Florida State side of things.
Oh yes, maybe so. Yeah, and he never mentioned Florida State by name or Clemson by name. Phillips didn't. But yeah, I guess it was that Swofford has mentioned the lawsuit, and that a lot of people rightfully blame him for the mess, and it is a mess that the ACC is in today financially, comparatively to the 2 bigger conferences.
Got that linear network though, man.
Yeah, it's making money too. It's making money. 14% increase over last year, my man.
I was not in Dallas 2 weeks ago or a week ago when it was SEC Media Days, but like being up in that ballroom, like I just shook my head. And I'm not very partisan when it comes to this stuff. Like I see both sides of it. Obviously, I want it to work out in Florida State's favor so they can exit, which is with as few lost resources as possible. But just like the videos they were playing, like they're trying to create this this environment of like excellence and this and it's. You just look around, and there's like a bunch of empty seats in this ballroom, and you look and you're like, man, I don't want to say it feels like a sinking ship, but it's never felt like home for Florida State, and for some reason just being here this week just underscored it that much more about where the priorities are, how things are produced, how things are valued, and where Florida State kind of overlaps, and then it's not as much. And
it's just like he can tout, and he did for a long time, tout the successes of the ACC,
titles.
But even in football, you can tout what ACC's done in football, and it hasn't been a horrible conference by any stretch. Clemson and Florida State, mainly Clemson the last decade, have had some great teams and really great players. But so you can tout all you want about the ACC, and you can tout how you're trying to catch up, and you're the 3rd best conference when it comes to revenue in college sports. But the fact of the matter is, and will always be, very few schools in this conference care about football, and they never will. That you are not going to fill up Stanford this is a new blood. Yeah. You're not going to fill up Stanford on a routine, consistent basis. SMU Stadium is 30,000 people, 30,000 seats or 40,000 seats. Cal does not care about football. Duke does not care about football. Boston College, Pitt, They just do not care about football. Syracuse doesn't care about football in any real way, and that's the issue you're always going to have. The money isn't going to come for a conference where most of the programs in it are not football schools and won't beat football schools. How close was that? 32,000?
At SMU, but they've got the possibility to go to 45,000 in future expansion.
Okay, Gerald Ford Stadium, too.
Not that Gerald Ford,
I was going to
though.
say, because he went to Michigan. Yeah, he wasn't a SMU man.
He was just a billionaire.
Yeah, all right.
Just some random billionaire guy
okay.
giving a whole bunch of money to them.
All right,
so.
good for them.
Yeah, man. I guess we need to. I wish we did this every single year we came here, or we patched each other in. But like, is this the last year we're here?
No, I think there'll be one more year. I think next year will be the last year we're here. That's my guess, is that we'll do this one more year, hopefully back at the Westin.
Yes.
And then that will be, and I'll write another Jim Phillips column. But maybe this one will be like, hey, we wish Florida State and Clemson the best. They've been great partners. Maybe there'll be some, mended fences by then, and everybody will be happy and they'll be kumbaya because they're getting $200 million out of each school or something. Who knows? But yeah, I think next year will be the last year. And also, Aslan, don't forget, we got to talk football.
We did.
We got to actually talk football with Mike Norvell and 3 players while we were here.
Real quick though, do we cut sod from the Westin, outside the Westin, or do we go to the headquarters of the ACC? Because they're in some big skyscrapers, so I don't think they even have any kind of like
the
greenery.
12th floor. I think we could go to the lobby.
Maybe like the carpet, like hack
Can
out
we
a piece of tile.
And that's a misdemeanor, right? There's no way that's a felony to cut like a 5-inch swath of carpet. That's just a misdemeanor. Yeah, we can do that. People listening to this could pay our legal defense team.
Right.
Yeah, that's a good question. We definitely should cut. That would be an all-time victory. That would definitely be it would be funny if there was a spot in the sod cemetery for that. Like July 28th, 2025.
As Corey had inferred, that it is indeed talking season. So Mike Norvell is here, flanked by Joshua Farmer, Patrick Payton, Darius Washington. First thing, do you think it was coincidence that those 3 guys were here? All seemingly homegrown, day one, recruited by this university. Maybe not by Mike Norvell, because Darius Washington was part of the Willie Taggart sort of era. But your thoughts again on those 3 guys being the representatives?
No, I think that made a lot of sense. I thought maybe Azarie would be here instead of, as opposed to Farmer. But no, I think the fact that Farmer, I think Farmer was the first person to commit to Mike Norvell.
High school wise, I think he was.
Yeah, right. I think he was the first person to commit to Mike Norvell. So that's a nice symmetry there, man. Darius Washington is here before Mike Norvell.
Sorry, the first recruiting class, because he obviously 2020, but he got here. He got hired in 19, like in December. So that class, like Lawrence Toafili was part of the 2020 class. But in terms of like his first full cycle as a head coach of Florida State, for the people that
so that's I think there's some symmetry there. Obviously Darius has been here through all of it. I mean, think about that, folks. He's been a football player at Florida State. He was a football player in 2019.
Started games
in 2019 for that coaching staff and that team, and then now here he is. I think he's played in 50 games in his college career, and he's getting to start his last year at Florida State. So no, I don't think so. I don't think it was a coincidence necessarily. I think that was something they wanted to do. And yeah, once DJ said he wasn't coming, it made sense to go homegrown, because that is something that people think a lot about this program, and with good reason, is that it's transfer made. It's not homegrown made. And there's some validity to that, because all the biggest guys that have been drafted, all the biggest stars they've had the last couple of years have seemingly been transfers. But they've developed some dudes too, and these 3 are perfect examples of that.
Head coach Mike Norvell, sharply dressed, khaki suit, liked it. Maybe not khaki, like chino is like the fabric, khaki's a color, so it would be khaki, I guess we could say goldish.
Goldish, yeah, with a Bowden Society tie.
Yeah. I think back to like the first, like I think it was 21, and you asked him about that in an interview that's going to play later on the end of the show, everybody, just about, he's so at ease, and I wanted to ask him about that, but we were short on time. I wonder like the amount of confidence he had his first season like at Memphis versus like the first season at Florida State, because he was so confident when he took the job and announced his vision about how it was all going to turn out. But when he was here in 2021, it was like, yeah, man, like you came from a group of 5 school, you guys were, 3 and 5?
3 and 6.
3 and 6 that first season. And you could kind of tell he was a little bit like on kind of an uneasy ground, talking to people, feeling the questions. I mean, a lot of it's the questions that you're being asked, and this time around, like you're the belle of the ball.
Yeah.
I mean, do you sense kind of like I don't want to say maturity, but just a level of comfort, assurance that he has, and just in terms of his vision, his culture has taken hold, and he's excited for what's to come this season?
Yeah, I think so. I think that as much as you can judge it from an event like this, I do think he's definitely confident in what his program is. And the proof's there, right? He mentioned it multiple times. They've won 23 games the last 2 years. They won 19 in a row, if you don't count the slop in Miami. So obviously he's confident from that, but it feels like he knew this was coming. Now, I don't know what he felt like after 0-4 in 2021. He's 3-10 in his first 13 games. He probably wasn't all that confident then. He might have wondered if this was ever going to turn around. Then a bald-headed writer asked him a question in some fateful press conference, and the whole thing flipped. But I think that you can see how comfortable. I guess I hate using the word over and over again, but confident in what this program is now and the players he has. Not just the talent, but the guys they brought in character-wise, which seemingly means a lot to him. There's a level of comfort and ease that you see in him, just that he knows that you don't have to spout how good you are. He knows he's good.
It's not arrogance either.
Yes. And he's not being arrogant. He didn't say anything arrogant. He always talks about how hard they got to work and nothing's given, but you can tell how comfortable he is with where his program has gotten to. And he's not surprised by it. It doesn't seem like he's surprised by it in the least.
And what I like too is he was asked a broad, general question just about which units on either side of the ball are going to need to step up for you guys to kind of maximize what you can be. And he could have been mealy mouthed and kind of went around it and talked about things without putting a spotlight on any one group. But he kind of came out and he talked about the wide receivers. I mean, and everyone knows this is not news to anybody, but we notice this stuff. Obviously, the head coach is going to notice it as well too. But what do you take away from him, kind of, taking that question head on and maybe kind of laying out a challenge before these guys that are supremely talented, but obviously haven't produced a lot at this level?
Yeah, man, I think that's the key to the season. Quite honestly, I think they're going to be pretty good either way. But if they can get not just okay wide receiver play, but good wide receiver play, that could be the difference between 8 wins and a semifinal spot in the playoffs, you know what I mean? Or a national championship for all we know. We have no idea what the ceiling is for these wide receivers. They weren't great in the spring. Malik was pretty good at times, as Norvell said, but overall as a group, they were not impressive. Overall, I would say, right? They weren't disappointing.
No.
They weren't impressive. They weren't like, oh my gosh, this is going to be incredible. So I think that's what he's kind of challenging them for, is that, he brought up Hakeem, he brought up Jaylen Brown, obviously brought up Malik and said Malik had a chance. He had some really special plays and had some flash plays, but it's the consistency. And
Deuce is the guy you mentioned needs to.
I thought that was really telling because I think he understands, just like we all do. Obviously he understands better than we all do, that the wide receiver play has to step up considerably for this team to reach its ceiling. Whatever that ceiling has to be, it has to be better than the wide receiver play has to be better than it was in the spring, and for all we know, it will be. But that did ring my ears too. As he meant. Usually, you're right. I want to see us improve in every position. He made a beeline to wide receiver.
And the things, and I don't even know if you can really even say with a certainty that they are going to step up. So there really is going to be so much pressure on them. And I think in those first few days where they're not going to be in any kind of pads, and the physicality is going to be a little bit lower, I think it's really the onus is on these receivers to come out and they can't do anything special, but just some consistent, solid days, especially when they do one-on-ones and maybe some of the team-related stuff.
That's because what are you going to learn from the line of scrimmage in the first couple of days? Not a ton, but the wide receivers, DBs, they kind of go at it like they do with full pads on. There's not a ton difference there. They guys that get open, guys that catch the ball, guys that make contested catches, guys that run where they're supposed to be. Those are the guys that will play. And I do, as he said in the breakout session on Mondays, it's better than where we were, where you're not sure you have the talent. He goes, I know we have the talent. Yeah. The talent isn't a problem. We have talent. It's just a matter of that talent being consistent. And it's better than not having talent for sure.
What do you think about his response to what segment on the defense needs to step up? Because he included, obviously, again, everyone realizes linebacker is an issue. I don't want to say issue, but it's something that could improve. I thought it was interesting too. I think that he said that he thinks linebacker is the most talented and the most depth they've had at that position since he's been here. Yeah. And then he also qualified it with, and I understand that we just lost 2 really talented guys. Yeah. That was very interesting. But he mentioned that it sounds like he's really confident about the back end of the defense, because he said the linebackers and seeing how they meld
with the
together
with
the defensive line.
Yeah.
But I feel like the defensive line is pretty rock darn solid. Maybe that's just him not wanting to spotlight just the linebackers. What do you think about his observation?
I agree with you there. I think it was not. He was basically saying the front. He was including the front 7, or in their case, the front 6. When in reality he meant the middle 2.
Yeah,
that's what he meant, but he didn't want to say it.
Yeah.
But yeah, that caught my ear too. That he said that he thought it was the most talented group of linebackers he'd had. He might be right. I don't know. Like,
leave Randy Shannon alone, everybody.
Well, we'll see. Nicholson, Cryer, Lundy was brought up repeatedly, and in fact, I asked Patrick Payton, because he talked about how he wasn't really a vocal leader. I'm like, well, who are the vocal leaders? And I said, obviously Shaheem, because he talks all nonstop. And he goes, yeah, and he goes, DJ Lundy talks a lot too. And he said Kevin Noles, but he mentioned DJ Lundy right away as a leader. And then Norvell mentioned him a couple of times, like right away, like with unsolicited. He talked about DJ Lundy. So I think we can pencil DJ Lundy into one of the starting spots.
Yes.
That's without a doubt. He is locked and loaded there, and he's played a ton of football, and they have a lot of confidence in him. And talent or not talent, communication is really important. Like if you're a talented linebacker, but don't know where you're going, or don't know where you're supposed to be, or where your teammates are supposed to be, that it doesn't matter. You could be Derek Brooks, it doesn't matter. It's the same thing with any position, really. So the fact that they have so much confidence in Lundy speaks volumes about how much he's going to play, which is a lot. But yeah, other than that, like I was surprised, because I don't, obviously we think Cryer Nicholson can be something, and they obviously do too, because he said they're a talented group. But after that, is it Murphy? Is it who is that, Riley? The kid from,
Cam Riley.
From Auburn. Like, are those guys going to step up? Omar Graham. Like, there's guys that have been here or have played college football. Which one of them are going to take the next step and play alongside Lundy and back up Lundy? Because they're probably going to have a rotation, if they stay healthy, of 4 guys at the most. So who are going to be the other 3 is one of that and wide receiver to me are the things to watch of the whole preseason.
Does DJ Lundy count as a transfer?
Because he went in and out? No.
He left. He was at Colorado.
No,
Did he not go?
he never went to Colorado. I think he made it. Marion Cooper, who he was asked about, Duke Cooper, he was asked about, and he about letting him come back, and that's not how the question was phrased. So I don't mean to phrase it like letting him come back, but I did ask him, like, that's not. There's probably some guys that have left this program that you would have not allowed to come back. What is it about Duke that allowed? And he said he did talk to some of the players on the team. And they were all for him coming back.
That's cool. All
right.
And
so they did talk to the players on the team. They were all for him coming back. And they had a sit down with him and a talk with him. Maybe it wasn't a sit down, it was over the phone or Zoom, but talked about expectations and roles. And clearly he knows he ain't coming back in here and just getting a starting spot. Like, it's a loaded secondary, man. Earl Little, Azarie, Shaheem. It's not Fentrell. There's not an absolute starting spot ready for him. So we'll see where he plays, but I thought it was interesting. It's on our the one you filmed from the breakout, the 35 or 40 minute one.
Norvell's 43 minutes.
Norvell 43 minute, talking about Duke Cooper and the fact that he came back and how much he loves that kid.
Lunch specials over at the Corner Pocket Bar and Grill run from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. unless you show up today on a Tuesday, and it's Taco Tuesday. So all day long, $8.99 hard or soft shell tacos, beef or chicken. So is it all you can eat? Or is it like 3 of them, 4 of them?
No, it's definitely not all you can eat. It's not running a buff. Come on, man, this ain't a cruise ship.
$8.99 Corner Pocket Bar and Grill. Those lunch specials.
Trivia tonight.
Yeah, but it's all day. The tacos, hard or soft shell, beef or chicken. Check it out. And 7 o'clock trivia. I don't think you'll be there. Or
I might be there. Ooh. I might be there. It's a game time decision if I'm back in time.
What do you want to get your hands on when you get to the Corner Pocket Bar and Grill? Other than a cold.
Oh, I thought you were going to say other than
water.
A waitress.
Hey.
Just kidding, Steph. That was a joke again. Probably the prime rib sandwich, buddy. The prime rib sandwich, and I'm telling you, I used to always praise the French fries because they're great, and I don't like French fries. But I've become addicted to the chips.
Okay.
The homemade chips.
Freshly-
They're really,
freshly-
really good.
yeah,
Yeah,
chips,
the
all
fresh made homemade chips are awesome.
I finally watched The Bear. I saw all 3 seasons. So I want to almost make an Italian beef sandwich, but they do
They have a
homage.
bear, and it's called the Bear.
Right.
It's called the Bear. It's an Italian beef. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll go check it out. Let me know if you're there. Maybe I'll.
Okay,
pop
good,
over.
man. Awesome.
See how
That'd
it
be
goes.
great.
Corner Pocket Bar and Grill. All right, real brief things on the players that we spoke to. Joshua Farmer's being part of the crew around him was Ira, and Ira asked him just about like last season, and Farmer said it on the podium as well. He's like, man, we're pissed. Like, we're pissed about last year. And he's like, we're on the get back for this season. He's like, that 12-team playoff, we know we're definitely making it into it. He wasn't maybe as confident in front of the podium in the breakout
I think maybe
room.
there have been some words exchanged, not exchanged, but maybe some advice given in between that when he talked to us the first time and when he was on the podium.
What else caught your ear from either Darius or Patrick or Joshua? And I almost meant to ask Joshua how much that medallion he wore cost, because that thing
It was
had
sparkly.
more carrots than Bugs Bunny.
It looked like one of those things you'd find in a treasure chest at the bottom of the sea. You know what I mean? Like one of those
One-Eye Willie's, like,
old pirate
Trump,
chests, man.
yeah.
It was crazy. Good for him. I mean, nothing really. Nothing really caught my ear as far as anything surprising that they said. They are confident. They should be confident. I think that, again, especially Peyton and Farmer, and you'll hear the interviews that over the coming days, talking about how they are deeper than they were last year up front, which I think is true. It doesn't even mean they're better, but they are deeper. They have more able bodies, I think, quality bodies than they did last year. Maybe not the special elite, but they have more quality bodies. And I just think that what I do think is interesting, it's cool about this team that Peyton brought up when we were talking to him, is that, Farmer, him, Marvin Jones Jr., all these guys have, like, even though they play at Florida State, they do have chips on their shoulders. They are hungry.
Shame.
Yeah, they're hungry, man. They don't, because they haven't reached those they haven't gotten the glory. They also are hungry because of what happened last year in December with the playoff. But I think it's just so many people after that season ended, and especially after the draft, were like, oh, they were good. Renardo Green, Fisk, Verse. Yeah, man, but they're like kind of jumping up and down, waving their hands like, yeah, we're good too. We're good too. We still got some talent over here. And I do think it's a sweet spot to be in as a program when you've got guys that have played a lot of football, guys that have a lot of talent, that are hungry, that are still unproven, and though they still feel like they have something to prove, because that's when it can get fun as a program, is when you keep replenishing your two deep with guys that are talented, NFL potential, and hungry and unproven. That is a good place to be.
Before we get to Coach Norvell's interview, you mentioned roles earlier when they talked to Omarion Cooper and coming back, and I had a kind of a clumsy question during the local availability with Coach Norvell about the expanded on-field coaching now. So all these analysts, Ernie Sims can be an on-field coach. I just wondered if there was like a law of diminishing returns almost, where it's like, yeah, man, like you can give me 50 coaches, but there's only so much that we can do. Maybe it's because I asked him the question, but I found it interesting that he seemingly has a really involved plan to have all these guys involved in certain. He talked about there's certain functions, certain instructions, techniques guys can focus on. So yeah, you might have like a true pass rush specialist coach now, where you have an ends coach and a defensive line coach. Yeah. We might have a guy now that just strictly works on pass rush moves.
You could have a guy that, like, say Patrick Payton's fine. He doesn't need any work. He's good. And Marvin Jones too. But a freshman that's coming in, or a Lamont Green Jr. or something like that, that you have a coach that's not specifically working with him, like, hey, you're Lamont's coach, but like every day after every rep, because they just don't have the time to do it. These linebacker coaches, these DNs coaches, the Fuller, they don't have time to. There's 40 guys they're trying to coach during the course of a practice. They can't go and give them one-on-one coaching and tutelage every practice, every rep. But you could have a guy that every time Lamont Green comes off the field says, hey man, I like what you did here, but you got to do this. They're just getting more. I don't think it's a bad thing as long as the message stays the same, as long as there's not competing thoughts where Papuchis is saying, no, I want you to swim this way, and then the coach is like, no, screw that. You need to swim. As long as they're not competing thoughts and it's the same message, I don't think that does anything but help them. I don't think it's a law of diminishing returns. I think as long as you're getting feedback, the more feedback you get that's constructive, the better you're going to be in anything, I would think, especially if it's coming from a place where you trust the person that's giving you the feedback.
I think he was asked about tablets in helmet communication.
Yeah.
And I like, because I wish we had more time with Coach, and he was generous to give us the time that he did have. But we talked about like what can he really do in the headset, and we talked about maybe there might be some sort of tendency that he can see and he can tell DJ some kind of just shorthand thing, or like, hey man, just boundary side of the field all day.
Yeah.
And he mentioned he's like there's the opportunity to do like in-game coaching and share tips, I think is what he said. And it's going to be really interesting to see all these new things that are now available to coaches. It really feels like the cream's going to rise to the top now here, where there's going to be, I think, a huge spectrum of just how much you can take advantage of these new things, whether it's taking advantage of a 2-minute warning and how you want to attack things from that, using all these on-field coaches being available, and it just makes you feel that much better about what Florida State can be because of him and how meticulous he is. And he's probably going to use all these things better. And I don't want to sound too arrogant, but it feels like he's going to be able to utilize these things better than most any other coach out there, especially in this conference.
I mean, there's no reason to dispute that, right? Like, he's proven he's a really good coach. So the more ways he gets to coach, the better you think you are, and the bigger the advantage gets, right? The more ways he can impact the game, or his vision can impact a program, you feel like the better off you're going to be.
All right, do you want to set up the interview with Coach Norvell?
One we just did, the 5-minute one? The end with Aslan's, they go back and forth with his college career, which was, I thought, very enlightening and interesting. Yeah.
Bad research by your guy, but I tried.
Did you look that up? Was he really wrong? Was he wrong?
I think I still have it in front of me here, maybe. But so this is 2005. See, I didn't realize. So I went down here.
Oh, so he was right. That was the first game of the season.
Yeah, like the dates are all jacked up, so it's not in chronological order.
Yeah, so they lost to North Alabama. Ooh, they did lose to North Alabama on a field goal. That's a toughie. It's a tough way to end it.
He said North Alabama. Let's go and look, because he gave us the stats on it or whatever, right? So we can pull up and actually see what he did.
He said he had a 65-yard touchdown, I thought.
That's North Alabama stats. 4 for 127 and a tutty.
Yeah, and a 56. It was 56-yard touchdown.
Mike.
Wow, 4 for 127. Okay, all right. And they lost on a field goal. That's a bummer.
Unbelievable. So, here's your head football coach, Mike Norvell.
All right, here with Coach Norvell. First off, what kind of questions were you getting the first time you came to one of these events? Which I guess would have been 21, right? Because they didn't do it in COVID in 2020, but I think they did it in 21. Yeah. But you're coming off a 3-6 season after a coaching change the year prior.
No, I mean, I think, there are a lot of unknowns, a lot of people looking for vision and, just a sense of, potential and what's ahead. And, after a 3-6 season, what's that next step going to be, what's it going to look like. And I definitely wasn't saying, hey, an 0-4 start, watch this, but I do think as you got through that, you watch the way of ending that second year and seeing some spark and seeing some growth and improvement, but it was a lot of talking of vision. And now as we've kind of you've shown some of those positive steps with 23 wins in the last 2 years, and the back-to-back 10-win seasons, a conference championship. Now it's more of who rather than what, and seeing the players that are taking those next steps, and something I'm really excited about.
When we talked to Link before the season this year in baseball, obviously, and he said that there were days during our preseason practice where he's like, oh my gosh, we might be the best team in the country. This is crazy good. And other times where he's like, ooh, this wasn't good at all. When do you know as a coach, or can you know, like, man, we're going to be really good, or we have a chance to be really good? And did you have those days in the spring of both?
Yeah,
of like, man, we could be awesome this year.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's where, that's what I'm most excited about for the season, is because I see ability. I know who I'm getting to coach. I've got a sense of their character, of the work ethic. You see speed, you see power, but now the real question is in the moment of truth, when it's all on the line, when you've got to go out there and perform, when it's a good play or it's a bad play, who's going to show up, how they're going to show up, and the consistency of that. Is going to be discipline, and is going to be detail, or that's what is a mark of a great team. And people, I point back to the 13 wins last year, and there's 4 of those games we were down 10 points in those games, and nobody likes to remember. Oh, I remember that, but it's what was real, and the confidence that players have when those things show up to be able to respond. We also saw a point early in the season. We were on the road at Boston College where didn't start well. We jumped up and got to a double-digit lead, and all of a sudden you take a deep breath and you have a couple focused bad plays that now becomes a one-score game that's a challenge to the end. So it's like we have to grow through all of those things, and now this team has its moment, and I'm really proud of what they've done leading up to it. I mentioned earlier, I think it's probably one of the best off seasons I've ever been a part of. And just the approach to work. Now we get to go live it.
Does DJ have the best arm you've ever been seen up close and personal or coached?
Yeah, he's definitely the strongest. Probably arm talent. It's very natural for him. I think he's grown in so many ways, and just the biggest push is just consistency, the intermediate passing game, the rhythm, the timing, and that's something I think that's helped him benefit him throughout the course of even this spring. You guys were out there most practices, and it's part of when you bring somebody in that's new, whether it's high school transfer, regardless of position, you want to see the really good. You want to see the potential. You want to see that it can click and you can go perform at this level. But you also need to see the bad. You need to see the challenge. You need to see, where are the areas of opportunities for growth? And that's what I enjoyed as much through the spring. And we tried to put him in some uncomfortable situations, and how he was able to work himself through that. And that even showed up in the showcase. There was one particular concept that we had early in that day, had a bad play, had one of the ugly or bad decisions or throws, and they're 20 minutes later, same play, different opportunity, and man, he makes an immediate correction and response to a explosive play, and it's one of those things that you build, and you're like, all right, that's what you need to see in that moment to help him prepare him for what it's going to look like when we're in Dublin, Ireland.
Well, and that's a guy that's started 40 games or played in 40 games. That's a guy that's played. He's seen everything. I was going to ask you about him. What yard line do you have to be in Hail Mary territory? Have you even thought about that yet?
No, that will be a part of it. We will know.
I'm guessing you're on 38.
I've seen him on his back foot throw the ball 60 yards. So it's. I would say you'd probably be in pretty good.
Yeah, about 35. You're on 35, 38. Hopefully we don't ever have to be in that position.
We don't have to worry about that. But we will be prepared.
I had a serious question to ask him, but the good thing is you give us the luxury of asking you questions after practice every day, so I'll save it. So we'll go to the best part of the show, speed round with Coach Norvell. 5 questions, start the clock. Do you remember your stat line in your final game at Central Arkansas versus Eastern New Mexico?
That was not my final game at Central Arkansas. It was not against Eastern New Mexico. My final game at Central Arkansas was against North Alabama. My final touch was a 60-something yard touchdown.
Look at this guy.
But unfortunately, we lost the game in overtime by a field goal, and that was the end of.
We tried to trip him up. We couldn't even trip him up. Do you remember how many touchdowns you scored in your first season at Central Arkansas?
I do not.
7.
Wow.
Do you know who led the team with 8?
Do not.
Landon Trusty.
Very good. Do you know that Landon Trusty's daughter is a member of our beach volleyball team here at Florida State University? There's a question for you.
She must be awesome if she's a member of that team.
2 more. True or false? You actually walked on at Louisiana Tech before going to Central Arkansas.
That is a true statement.
I never knew that. We'll have to get into that at some point.
You just didn't like Rustin?
Finish this sentence. If Robert Scott is not an NFL football player, he'll be
successful businessman, no doubt. And Louisiana Tech, coming off of my senior year in high school, which I was not eligible to play. I spent 5 years in high school being a 16-year-old in my first one and wanting to play college ball. We're probably getting yelled at for time.
You're good. You're yelling at me.
So I actually coached my senior year of high school. And, I was not able to play, so went and walked on at Louisiana Tech. Our offensive coordinator there took the job at Central Arkansas. Open door of opportunity.
Isn't that crazy how life works out? Like, where does your life go if that doesn't happen? You know what I mean? It's crazy.
It is. What do you do with every experience you have, and go make the most of it?
Yeah.
Fortunate, found my wife Maria, and now look at us now.
Now you get to talk to us.
Now I get to talk to y'all, and just a question on the mustache.
We don't know what we're doing. It needs to be. It's just interferes with eating food.
I haven't been around you enough to see that that's a real thing. Question: do you do the mustache wax?
No, I don't. Maybe that's what I need to do.
I'm true or false. I'm calling.
It curls naturally.
Crap on that.
Call me up.
All right.
Head football coach Mike Norvell. Thanks so
Thank
much.
you, buddy.
We'll see you in a few days.
All right,
out
guys.
there.
Go Noles.
That was fun. Thanks to Coach Norvell for taking time out, as well as all the players. You're probably like, oh, when are we going to hear from them? Tomorrow's show. So, Corey, we'll do. We'll probably just, I don't want to say mail it in because we're here, but we're going to drive back.
Yeah.
And go cover practice on Wednesday for you folks tomorrow. So the show that's going to be for you folks on Wednesday morning is going to be all the interviews: Joshua Farmer, Patrick Payton, Darius Washington, as well as Haynes King, the quarterback of Georgia Tech, who will be going up against, and then Elijah Roberts from SMU, defensive end, who had 10 sacks after doing nothing at Miami for 3 years.
Apparently, Norvell offered Haynes King when he was a junior. He had he offered him on site at a camp they had in West Texas, and he's known his dad forever. He's known his dad since he got into coaching. Apparently, Haynes King, his dad, is a big deal coach at Texas.
Head football coach at Longview High School.
There you
Haynes
go.
King, they won the first state championship in 81 years.
Okay.
His junior year.
All right. Okay.
So that's really, I wonder if Norvell offered him before his junior year or after his junior year. Because
I think he said before his junior year.
He won the state championship his junior year. And
He's got a
Mike
good eye.
Norvell's
Got a good eye.
So we'll package all that for a show on Wednesday, and then Thursday's show is going to be maybe some mailbag, but just a lot of observations. We're going to go. We're going to go.
We're
watch
going to do
practice,
it. We're
Corey.
going to do it. I can't believe it. We made it. We made it.
We're back. Thanks so much for listening. Hit the thumbs up on the way out, 5-star rating and review, and subscribe. Again, FSU One, $1, 2 months, premium access. Can't go wrong. He's Corey Maslon. Thanks for listening throughout all this cacophony of nonsense here at ACC Kickoff. It's been Wake Up Warchant presented by Vitamin Energy.